Sevcik School of Bowing Technique. This time we're going to be looking at Sevcik exercise 6 in the book. It has many variations. If you haven't seen my previous Sevcik videos, I do have one on Sevcik 5 and one on Sevcik 4. Just FYI, I do plan to redo those videos or, give you a newer updated version on it because I want to just make some changes to the quality level of the recording and things. So look out for that in the future. It's definitely on my to-do list. But today I'm going to kind of present Sevcik 6 in a different format, and what I'd like to do is just zero in specifically on one or two variations, and I will show you how I teach it, or just break it down into components for you. So this is kind of like a slow, more methodical version of what I quickly do in my head when, if I were to practice one of these myself or see something like this in, a different exercise. And so this is kind of what goes through in my thought process. So for today, I'd like to go ahead and start with variation 37. Variation 37, so we're on Sevcik exercise 6, and the variation is 37. And in this variation, this is to me mainly a bowing, like slurs and ups and downs and things like that, and bow distribution variation. So what I do is, first of all, we should already be familiar with the original theme. So that's what you see first when you turn to Sevcik exercise 6. And so you would have already practiced it. You know the notes really well. You have a nice control of pitch and tempo, steady pulse and things like that. And then you'd be ready to try some of the variations. So variation 37, I first break it down into steps. So the first thing I look at is the rhythm. When I'm teaching these variations to some of my less experienced students, they sometimes confuse the rhythm and the bowing together. They get kind of jumbled up. So they'll see a bowing and then they'll change the rhythm to make the bowing feel comfortable. This happens all the time so much. And so to break that habit, I try to have them just really focus in on the rhythm first. So the good news about 37 is that the rhythm hasn't changed at all. So if you look at the original theme, it's just eighth notes all the way through mostly, and so is this one. So variation 37 has eighth notes all the way through. Second thing I look at is the bowing. So if there's any like special down, down, down markings, or down, down, up, up, or if there are slurs, or if it starts up bow. So those are the type of things that I look at, and that's in the category of bowings. In this case, the first note is separate, so there's one bow for one note, and then all the rest of the notes in the measure, minus the last note, they're all slurred together. So we have 6 notes slurred in one bow. And then, as I said, the last note in the measure is separate, okay? If we take the pattern onto the second measure, it's the same thing. The first note's alone, right? One bow per one note, then 6 notes in a slur, and then the last note is by itself, okay? So sometimes at this point, I might do a little bit of air bowing, especially if the bowing might be challenging compared to what the student's level is. Sometimes it's a piece of cake, so I'll just, let the student jump right in at the end after we review everything. They can just play it just fine. So it really depends on where you are at. If you're the one learning it or if you're teaching it, you have to assess, where the student is at. So we'll do an air bow session, so we'll try this. So it starts down, but we're going to go down and then 3 notes up and 3 more notes up, right? And then we have one bow alone, one note alone, and then the next measure up, and then 6 total, long slur, and then up. Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna go da 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 dee da da, separate, da 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 dee da da, separate. And that's all I do. I tell them just only look inside of variation 37 and only take care of what's there. Don't try to flip back and look at the theme again. We're not ready to do that yet because we have more to do here. We want to look closer. We want to dig deeper and analyze what is this bowing variation all about. Okay, so we did a little bit of air bowing. You can also do some elbow bowing. I know some school teachers do this where they put their elbow. I like upside down because I don't want the horsehair and the rosin touching my skin here. So I go upside down, and then you can just use a fist and you can play the fingers and then do the bowing, right? This is really good because I find that the listening to the sound really distracts the student at times. So you can just elbow bow that. Okay, so we had step 1 was look at the rhythm so that we know how to transfer this rhythm from the original rhythm. Second thing was the bowings, right? Third thing is bow distribution. What is bow distribution? I always define it simply as 2 things. How much bow? Where in the bow? Okay? How much are we using and which part? If I use a quarter of the bow, the quarter of the bow could be here, 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 or anywhere in between. A quarter of the bow could be anywhere. So where matters and how much matters. So how much bow, where in the bow. That's bow distribution. So these abbreviations, these symbols, they all have meanings. So the first one means at the point or at the tip. Okay, so we're going to start down bow near the tip. Okay, then it says whole bow. So the slur of 6 notes is going to be from the very, very tip to the very, very frog. I'm really meticulous about this. I really demand my students go extreme. Okay, then the final note is at the nut or the frog, or it's also called the heel. Nut, frog, heel, all same thing. Point, tip, all means same thing. Okay, so after we did that long slur, we're going to go 1 small bow down. Now we're ready for the next measure. So we have 1 note, so we go up because that's the next thing as it comes, and then the full bow, right? So we have 6 notes in a slur, and then the final note says at the tip or point, so we play that tiny bow. And now we're back to where we started. You see, we're gonna go back into the beginning of the pattern, and we're gonna go down at the tip. All right. So that is the bow distribution. Now in the slur, you can decide to, do equally, so into 6 parts, or if you're practicing varying your bow speeds, you can save bow and then spend bow, right? And save bow and then spend bow. There's a lot of things you could do, but even just getting the slur evened out equally among 6 notes is a challenge at times. Okay, step 4. Step 4, I look at dynamics and articulation. Sometimes I have to split them up. You'll see in another variation they both have something to do. There's some work to do. So in this case, there's no dynamics. They don't tell you how loud or soft you're supposed to play. There's no contrast within each pattern, so there's no dynamics. And there's really no articulation in my opinion, because the dash, in some editions, there's a dash, and that just means tenuto or legato or détaché. It's all basically just a smooth stroke. There's no, hardness to the sound at the beginning nor at the end. And then slur is basically a legato sound. So for me, this whole thing would be slur. So then we would just practice it, just play what's inside of variation 37. I'll do that right now. So I'm going to get ready for my down bow, and I'm going to go like that. Okay, so we're at the tip. So, and then frog, and then slur, and then tip, right? You could like that, and then that's it. So I look at the student usually after they try it once or twice, and then I ask them, did you get everything? So we go through the list and we see if we nailed it in every point, and if not, then we just work on that. So if they're having trouble saving bow, this is often what happens. And then whoops, I spend too much, right? And then they usually spend too much at the first note, right? So then we would need to work on saving that. So there's a lot of things to work out. Once I feel very satisfied that 2 measures is correct, then we turn the page and we go back to the original, and then we play it. So once you are able to play through the entire exercise with that variation pretty well, then I would consider starting to speed it up. So you can try it at various tempos. You could even try to add some dynamics and things like that. But that's basically step by step how I might teach that variation.